box? How small is the box?
Social security numbers is pretty important in that regard, and HIPAA information.
So the board members do not have social security numbers and HIPAA information, but we do receive other confidential information.
You know, I'm going to ask that because I want to finish a couple of agenda items here. And so what I'm hearing from you, Mr. Estrada, is you're going to be putting something together and bringing it back to us in the next couple meetings, or?
We're hoping for April,
Okay.
the latter part of April.
So we're just beginning, actually this is like the touching upon it tonight. So I'm sorry we're, going to have to cut this discussion off, but you're working on that and we'll bring something probably back in April. So thank you very much. I'm going to close that item for now. I'm sorry. Mr. Mims? Okay. I'm going to actually pull 16.18 because Mr. Rowland is ill and not here, and it's specifically something from him, and I wouldn't ask Dr. Lawrence to represent. So I would go to 16.19, public access to and release the FCMAT reports, and Mr. Mims has a comment. And then, oh, I'm sorry, okay, I thought it was a public comment card for that.
It is, but I need to hear what.
Okay, what we have here is 16.19, public access to and release the FCMAT reports, and this is Dr. Lawrence, and on the agenda are some questions that I actually just placed on there because I've been hearing various questions from the public, and I've asked Dr. Lawrence, so I thought it would just be better if we came here tonight and had that discussion here. So you had the questions, and if you want to address them, that would be great for the public.
Okay, great. What's the district's procedure for seeking, releasing, and acting upon FCMAT? And then how many FCMAT reports have the district requested in the past 2 years, and for what purpose? I sort of clumped together. Basically, FCMAT is a fiscal crisis management team, and they're well known in California to go in and help districts look at financial issues. When I came into the district 3 years ago, the district had a $16 million budget shortfall that we were deficit spending on an annual basis, and part of that actually was even masked by the fact that we were still going through our ARA funds that we received from the federal government. So even though we have made some very drastic cuts, gotten rid of class size reduction, impacted, how we fund high school athletics, gotten rid of, elementary music. I mean, the list goes on and on about the number of employees that we've released. We still have an ongoing budget deficit of $10 million. And in reviewing those numbers with Mr. Richards, basically when you look at the list of all the things that we've cut, we do have to get our fiscal ship, righted if we're going to move forward and be able to do things with COLAs, because otherwise the COLA will just go towards, closing the deficit spending gap. So the areas that we still had large funding sources in that we really hadn't made significant reductions were transportation and special education. And again, special education received funding from ARA that allowed us not necessarily to have to make those cuts. And then also, not only when we were running out of ARA funds, at the same time, Governor Schwarzenegger at that time blue lined AB 3632. And that was a program for mental health that we had a joint program with the county where we were getting over $4 million a year in that joint program. Currently moving forward, starting next year, that's going to be funded on an ADA basis. And so we are going to see a significant reduction in funding that we're getting in that area also. So basically, we asked for FCMAT to come in and do a transportation study and do a study in special ed. And those studies combined cost, I have that right here. They were approved last year. And they had a combined cost of $36,000, $14,700 for the transportation study, and $22,200 for the special ed study. Obviously, the special ed study is more in depth. So I'm happy to report tonight that actually I have the FCMAT study for special ed. We will be posting it on our website tomorrow, so people can get it. I will give the hard copy to the board at this time, and I actually brought a few copies. If you'd like to take a copy home with you, they're available. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is that actually I met with the CAC leadership, and they said that for both the transportation study as well as the special ed study, that they would like time to be able to analyze the what was written and come up with their own questions, and prior to it being a formal presentation at the board. And so that we did that with the transportation study, where we handed it out to the board. CAC was able to go and generate questions, and then we did a presentation. This time we're actually bringing back FCMAT members to do the presentation at the March 11th board meeting, so that because it's actually their study, even though we purchased it, they've done the research, they've made the recommendations, and so I thought it would be important that they would be here to talk about their study and answer any questions. The third study that we had done, or actually the third paper, 2 years ago, when the Clayton Valley Charter came forward, when we did our analysis of Ed Code, we determined that because of the way that the state funded conversion charters, there is a pass-through cost of $1,000 per pupil. There were questions about whether or not the district was interpreting Ed Code correctly, and so we went out and asked FCMAT to do a cursory, basically, report about whether or not we were interpreting Ed Code correctly and if we were applying that to our situation correctly. And they said that, based on their findings, that we were, and that there was about $1,000 pass-through per child that would cost the district approximately $1.7 million. This past spring, the board received some information that, again, questioned our calculations, and I was asked by then Board President Sherry Whitmarsh and Vice President Mrs. Mayo to, basically come up with a firm conclusion. And so we asked FCMAT, we went back to FCMAT, we asked them to do basically a more of a full audit, and again, take a look at Ed Code and to make a determination, because in our budget, we've shown that we now have a reduction of about $3.3 to $3.4 million based on the conversion charter. And the way that that's occurred is again, the $1.7 million in pass-through. And again, just to remind people, what happens is that we collect money at the unified rate of $5,200 approximately, and then we have to turn around and pass it through to the charter school at $6,200. And so that $1,000 pass-through gets charged to the district. And then on top of that, special education gets funded on an ADA basis. So we get funding no matter, it doesn't matter the size of our program, we get funded on the number of kids in our school district. And so when we lose the 1,800 students from the Clayton Valley Charter, we lose the ADA funding for those that we receive for all of those children to augment the special ed costs. And yet we are still, by federal law, held responsible for the children in that attendance pattern, and we have to serve their special ed needs if they cannot be served at the charter school. And so basically, within the letter that FCMAT put together, they concluded that our estimate of $3.3 to $3.4 million was a good estimate, and again, I brought copies of that letter. We were gonna, basically, we did this letter to confirm that our numbers and our budget were accurate. I was hoping we were wrong. I'd like to be nothing better than to be wrong, because instead of having a deficit of $10 million, we'd only be deficit spending $6.6 million, and obviously that has a significant implication when we're looking at budget reductions. And so, and trying to get our budget in alignment so that, and going into the future, some of the things that Mr. Moore brought up, we'd be able to address. But obviously we can't, do everything we're ever gonna wanna do until we get our budgets in alignment. So here is the letter on the charter. Again, we'll post that on our website. But again, the purpose of this was really that we still had some questions that the board was receiving around whether or not there was validity in our assumption of the $3.3 to $3.4 million reduction and the increase in our deficit. So this
This
letter.
one, Dr. Lawrence, if I could just interrupt, is I was